Welcome back, my wizard. The crazy part about these car explosions is they were created from a single image, basically. I'm gonna give you gobs of free stock footage that goes along with this tutorial. Everything you see in this car explosion. We have the explosion, we have ground fire, smoke plumes, we have shrapnel destruction, we have fire debris, we have exploding shrapnel, burn marks, lens dirt, dust wave elements, breaking glass elements. We have tools for camera shake. I also have a heat distortion script in here that looks more realistic than the Video Copilot heat distortion plugin. Unmult transparency plugin. We have additional detailed training in there, and you also get the cheat sheet for realistic compositing principles. I almost don't want to give away all this for free because people might not appreciate how valuable all these resources are and how much work this took to put together. Everything is free. Look at how this explosion just shatters the car from the inside out, and the flames just consume the car with so much dimensional depth. So if you're ready to learn how to blow shit up in a realistic way and at the same time blow up your skills and portfolio to make more money, let's make magic happen. So all of this starts from a simple car picture, just a picture. Now how do we make this animate and bounce when the explosion happens to react to all the energy? So we're gonna select the image, go to the mask tool, and we're gonna do a detailed mask around this car image. So while you guys get to watch this in fast motion, I have to do it in real time and waste my life for this tutorial. Not freaking fair. Freaking mask around this. Boom, and we can obviously use our handy dandy key cleaner. You're gonna see it's gonna find the nearby edges. Perfect roto around our vehicle. Of course, we wanna have a copy of our original footage in the background, so let's duplicate this footage. On this bottom copy, let's remove the mask. All right, so we are ready to animate this car now that it's separated. We move it up, and Houston, we have a problem. They're just copies of each other, like every After Effects tutorial since Video Copilot. Now, ideally, you want them to shoot a clean plate without the car, but if they don't, we have to jump into Photoshop here and remove it. But I know you guys are like, I don't use Photoshop. I do my Photoshopping in After Effects. Guys, I gotta get you out of your comfort zone. So we're gonna composition, save frame as file. We wanna change the image format to Photoshop sequence, and a really cool trick for the post-render action, you can do import. And let's render this bad boy out. Click render. You can see it's automatically in our project window. We can right click, reveal and explore. So now, since After Effects and Photoshop are both referencing the same file, it is dynamically linked. So then we save, then we jump in After Effects, boom, dynamically linked. So the client's like, oh my God, what did you just do to my vehicle? You're like, I know what the problem is. He wants blue hairs. So you add the blue hairs, hit save, jump back in After Effects, and ask the client, what do you think?
You're fired.
All right, over here in our tools, let's go to the quick select tool. Select the car just like that. And a cool trick is you can go up here to select a mask. A lot of settings. So we can add feather, we can expand the edge. Then we can right click, go to fill, choose content aware. Boom, so just that easy. The car is almost gone. We just have to clean it up around here. Now these Photoshop paint out skills are extremely useful because at a compositing studio, there are so many of these types of jobs. So I mentioned there was detailed training in the project file, but for the purpose of this tutorial, it's good. So if we save this, Control S or Command S for our Mac people, jump back in After Effects, just what we expect. So now this car is free as a bird. Okay, now we just need to separate the wheels, same concept. Duplicate the car, grab your mask tool, draw your mask around the first wheel. We can click M, go to the second mask, do intersect. We can duplicate this again. Let's apply this mask over here to this wheel. Duplicate again. So now you can see we have all four wheels separated. We have a couple problems. First of all, when we move the wheel down, we can see some of the car here, and also we have these holes right here. So to fix this problem where we can see the car duplicated, we can use the clone brush to paint this out. So look, you just double click on the layer, go over here to the clone brush, hold Alt, paint it out like that. So before and after. Fix this problem where there's a hole, you can create a solid layer. Select this black part, put it behind everything, and just draw a mask. We have each individual wheel able to be animated. I know you're freaking out right now because you're thinking about the millions of keyframes it's going to take to animate this bounce motion and make it look realistic and graph editing, but have no fear. We are wizards. A wizard would never do such a thing. There is a much better way. we are going to do a bounce motion simulation so that it's a completely natural movement and apply this to our car. Now I'm going to give you this 3D movement right here so you can use it for your shot, and it'll be a 3D object where you can move it around with no plugins to position it to your custom scene. It's going to be some mind-blowing information. But for now, let's just take this because it already fits the scene, and we're going to track this and apply the motion to the car. Pretty basic information. Let's go over here to the tracker, hit track motion with our bounce layer selected. Move this here. We're going to check rotation and scale. Make this big so it doesn't lose. All right, and let's track. All right, we're going to apply this motion to a null object. So do layer, new, null object, bounce motion, edit target, apply this to the null object, apply. So now let's apply the car to the bounce motion. Here, the parent bounce motion. Just like that, let's hide our bounce motion layer. So now you can see it looks very natural because it's tracking a real simulation. But you guys are wondering, okay, how did you create this bounce motion and how do I put it in my scene? Well, I'm about to say something that's gonna blow your mind. You didn't realize that if you have a Creative Cloud subscription, you already have a version of Cinema 4D installed on your computer in secret. You don't believe me? Right click in your project window, go over here to new Maxon Cinema 4D file. You guys are like Lendon's going crazy. Lo and behold, you already had a version of Cinema 4D on your computer in secret. That is crazy. There is a catch. It is Cinema 4D Lite. I'm going to merge the bounce motion. Okay, and basically the car just bounces like that. Okay, and then the key is just to position the camera like this and adjust the rig to match your shot. Also, if you want to open up way more compositing career opportunities by learning Nuke, we create this car explosion shot in the Nuke course in my career Mastermind. You can work one-on-one with me to take this car explosion shot to the next level of realism for your portfolio. And these wheels are being rebellious, not following along, so we can select all these wheels, hold shift, parent them to the car body. So now they follow along. So to make these wheels hit the ground properly, which is the part where everyone messes up that I've seen, here's how you do it. So just create a new solid layer, and this is gonna represent the ground. So for instance, if we're gonna do this back right wheel, so we put it right at the bottom of the back right wheel. And I found one of the best ways to do it is just to do a manual keyframe animation. We click P for position, add a keyframe, we go forward when it's up at the top like that. We can kind of move it down, and then let's just go frame by frame, hit page down, move it up, page down, move it up. We can do this really fast, page down, move it up. By the way, if I had $1 for every director that's emailed me wanting a car explosion shot, Elon Musk would just be kissing my feet. And it would almost be how much the IRS is taking out of my paycheck. So that's how you make the wheels interact with the ground. I know you guys came to watch this car explode, not just watch it bounce around.
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
So to do this explosion, we're gonna go into Houdini and do an advanced particle FX, flop dot blop, flop sop vop, particle pyro physics with Arnold unbiased PBR shaders, because I am such a complex and intelligent 3D artist instead of just using real stock footage. Because guess what? Real stock footage is real explosion, and it's kind of hard to make something more real than real. Boy, are we gonna have some fun with this. Put this explosion inside of the car, consume it, shatter it, all kind of crazy destruction stuff we're gonna do all here inside After Effects. So the first thing that I see amateurs do is they leave this line at the bottom. Like there's a ground there.
Disgusting! You! What's wrong with you?
So how do we get rid of this line at the bottom? Now I'm gonna show you a super useful technique for controlling the shape of these explosions. So the first thing I'm gonna do to make things simple is to pre-compose and leave all attributes. What that's gonna do is create a comp with the explosion inside of it so we can double click on this, have a simple clean comp to completely control this explosion. You're gonna love this technique. So the mistake most people make is they just come in here, go over here to subtract, and then add feather. But you can see that, you know, up here we have all this rough texture, and here at the bottom we have this smooth fade. Looks so unnatural. Check this technique. We're gonna create a new solid, Control Y. Let's draw a mask like this. Then we can add the turbulent displace effect. Increase the complexity, turn down the size, and maybe just add a little feather. And now you can see we have that textured mask, and if we go to the blending mode and change this to silhouette alpha, it's gonna eat out of that explosion in such a natural way. Whoa, I bet you guys are getting excited about that. When I say ninja technique, I mean it. Of course, we might have to animate the evolution to make it look natural, blah, blah, blah. Another thing I really love to do is I don't like this sharp line at the bottom of the explosion. I like it to blend into everything. So what we can do is duplicate the explosion, offset the time a little bit, and then just kind of draw a mask right there, add some feather, and it kind of just blends the bottom of that explosion. Makes it look way more integrated with that stuff at the bottom there. So I realized there's deeper meaning to this car explosion shot. See, this car represents my successful career and smart financial decisions, and this missile here represents my girlfriend. And now an even worse mistake than having the line at the bottom of the explosion is if the explosion is just on top of the car. Like you just layered an explosion element on top and you're like done. No, it has to be coming from inside of the car and just shatter, blow it up. How the heck are we gonna do that? Well, let's jump into that right now. So you have to basically dissect this car like a frog. You have to say what areas of the car are going to get disintegrated. You can see with a shatter effect like we're going to do in a second. Then we're going to say what elements are going to be in front of the explosion and what elements are going to be behind the explosion. So in this case, not really anything behind the explosion. But just think about it like that. What's going to be in front of the explosion, what's going to be behind the explosion, and what's going to be disintegrated. But now we have an even bigger problem. This car looks like a fucking cage. It's empty. Empty as my soul on Valentine's Day after a breakup. I don't know. Okay, we gotta put some stuff inside of the car to give it some mass. So for instance, on Google, I found this picture of the back of a car, and we can just place this into our shot, pairing it to the car body, and then we just use tint to pick whip the colors of the car, make it blend right in. Okay, now this car has some meat on its bones. Same thing for the front of the car. I found this image right here. Put it in the front, we have this solid layer, boom. So now we can put this explosion element in front, behind, to the side, above, below.
Down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
You're like, that's great, Lendon, but we have one problem. It looks fake as hell. And there's two reasons for that. A, we have these clean edges on the side of the car. I'm gonna give you some elements in the project file to add some shrapnel destruction. Secondly, we need more dimension. It needs to consume the car. We need some dimensionality. I mean, it's inside the car, but we need more of an intricate 3D consumption, like you consuming In-N-Out burger and completely forgetting about your health. So we can switch up the scenery a little bit by looking at this car explosion shot. You can see the edges are feathered, don't look natural. So what we can do here is add those shrapnel elements that you get from the project file. So add this door here. You can see this is not rocket science. I'm just simply placing these shrapnel elements along the edge of the car. Now you can see we have all these shrapnel elements pre-composed into one layer. Then we can grab a tint effect and do the color correction however we need to. Whoa, this definitely takes the destruction to a next level. These shrapnel elements are a super useful resource to have in your stock footage library. A huge part of your value as an artist is dependent on the creative resources that you have available. Also, we can drop in this burn mark element. And one thing I like to do is put the fractal noise on top of the burn mark just to give it some color variation. And then if we mask this burn mark just to the section we want, boom, that burn mark really helps blend everything in, give much more of a burnt destruction look. The same on the ground here, we have a burn mark. This is a 3D layer. You can enable the 3D with the icon right here. We basically rotate this in 3D space to make it match the orientation of the ground. Again, we also apply the fractal noise to give it some color variation. Alright, then we're going to drag in this ground fire layer, and we want a little bit of dimensionality, so we're going to make it consume some of these elements in the foreground. So in this shrapnel pre-comp, we can drop in this ground fire layer on top of some of the elements, turn the blending mode to silhouette luma, just like that. So some of the shrapnel elements are going to be kind of translucent, and we can drop down the brightness of this ground fire matte to make it less intense. Boom, look at that dimensionality. So it looks like part of the fire is kind of consuming some of these shrapnel elements in such a natural textured way. Another juicy asset you get in the project file is these shrapnel debris. We have big pieces, small pieces. Also, I filmed these fire debris. These look super awesome in your explosion shots. Now we have so many other types of stock footage elements that we're going to composite in to go over some realism compositing principles, but I never explained how do you make the explosion consume the car in a realistic 3D textured way. Well, some of you guys are thinking, Lendon, why don't we just grab a mask it out, and then add some feather? I'm going to jump through this comment section and kick you in the ass. Because it is forbidden for any visionary wizard to create visual effects that looks this fake! We're going to use some stock footage. Fireball stock footage. So we're just going to position scale and rotate this. Alright, we're going to put this just above the car body. And on the car body, we're going to use alpha inverted track matte. Alpha inverted track matte. So now we're removing the car body where this flamethrower element is. Now we can boost the opacity of this flamethrower element with a good old curves. You guys know about curves, don't you? You go to the alpha section and you just boost the opacity so it makes it look thicker or thinner. So this is awesome. And what we can do is duplicate this fire element. We're going to flip horizontal, and then we're going to make it kind of consume from this side as well. And if we pre-compose these two fireball layers together so they become one layer, pre-compose, now we have the matte, boom, and the fire explosion consumes the car. Look at that. That's awesome. So you can use this technique everywhere around the car to make it look like it's consuming. Now we're getting to the fun part where we assemble all the different types of explosion and destruction elements together to assemble this car explosion shot. We're going to cover one of the big needs in the industry, which is realistic stock footage compositing. Most artists make so many mistakes that make their real stock footage look really fake. So this is exciting. Let's jump in, assemble this explosion, and cover some really useful principles. So we're going to drag in our big explosion smoke plume. And one of the things that makes a shot look fake is obvious stock footage layering, like layer 1 and layer 2. And one of the things that makes the layering obvious is having edges that don't match. So you can see here on the smoke, there's this dark edge around the smoke, right here. And that makes it look super fake. Now I'm going to show you how to fix that. So you want to use the key light effect to fix the color of the edges. And you guys are thinking, what, key light? I thought that was for keying out green screens or something. Well, it actually has amazing edge color control tools. You can see there's a section down here called edge color correction. Let's go ahead and enable the edge color correction. And then we can play with the brightness of the edge, contrast, saturation, all kind of stuff. And there's also even an option to play with the color of the edge. Amazing. So that's in the key light effect. Now the key here is to control what edges this key light effect controls with a mask. So this is pretty awesome. You can actually apply a mask to an effect. Color correction to apply to this section right here. So we create that mask, and if we double click on the key light effect, you scroll down here, you'll see there's a plus on the compositing option. So you hit that plus, boom, you can apply mask 1 to the key light effect. So you can see the key light effect is only applying inside of this mask. Now that is awesome. This is how you get to pro level edge color correction control. We could even create another mask because over here the edge is looking too dark. Double click on the key light effect, scroll down, hit the plus, boom. So now we have two masks applying to the key light edge color correction. And let's just make sure we add a lot of feather to these masks so that there's no hard edges. One thing I noticed about a lot of other people, they don't add a lot of feather to their effects. Dude, I crank that feather up, man. You know, we just use a tint effect, pick colors from the scene, just blend that tint effect. Funky edging going on here. That is not good. You want to be extremely picky. The edges are super important. Another free resource I'm giving you is this cheat sheet for realistic compositing principles, along with additional quick training that goes over these principles and training to add more elements to this car explosion shot to make it look more realistic. For example, one of the simplest hacks to majorly improving your explosion shots is a good camera shake. Problem is, people always do the camera shake wrong. Takes a shot from looking bland to really exciting with a simple camera shake if you do it right. That's why I created this camera shake resource on my website. Just drag and drop this camera jerk motion on your scene. It'll add so much more energy to the explosion. It's a natural camera shake and it'll hide a lot of flaws. I can't emphasize a good camera shake enough. Now, what makes these dust waves that you get in the project file more realistic than other types of dust waves you get on the internet is it has real shadow detail and also a transparent background. So we can see these dark colors on the dust wave, the bright colors, and we do a tint effect, then we can color pick these shadows, color pick the highlights, and we'll have a perfect match. And sometimes you have to come in here and adjust the color, like make it brighter, for example. We can give it some of that dimensional depth. The way it looks like it's under the car. And we can animate this mask to make it look like it comes in front of the car.
Down, sideways, or in fucking circles.
Super realistic dust waves that you get for free. Also, those smoke plumes contain real color detail as well, so I'm integrating some brighter smoke plumes in front of those darker ones to add more highlight detail How I created this rising smoke element that you get in the project file is I went into Embergen and did a real-time smoke simulation, but I actually didn't use the render from Embergen because all I had to do was record the smoke coming out of my graphics card processor. And then when my computer blew up, that's where this explosion stock footage came from. So this rising smoke is moving much faster than the smoke plume in the background. And we're also going to put it on top of the fire so that kind of integrates the fire into that smoke plume behind it. We can apply a tint effect to make it black and then play with the amount of tint to control how dark the smoke plume is. So many layers that just add so much dimension and depth, integrates everything. Smoke plume, fire, rising smoke, and on top of that, I want to add some fire between the ground fire and the explosion. As the explosion rises, the fire kind of disconnects. So I'm going to drag in this fire burst element. I'm going to put it on top of the smoke plume like that, kind of blend the ground fire with the explosion above. Check that out. Use the fire burst element here. Now this is a problem that almost no one seems to understand. If you get this, you're gonna have an edge on so many different artists because they do not get this concept. So you have this smoke plume here, and the problem is when I put it over the explosion, we have these faded gray colors because the way fire works is the darker the colors are, the more saturated and orange they are. So when we put the smoke over the white and yellow, now it's just this dark gray faded look. And the simple solution for this is to create an adjustment layer above everything, draw a mask around that faded area, and then simply add tritone, push it towards this orange kind of reddish look. Then I'll blend with original like that. And then I can do curves, maybe add a little contrast, boost the red a little bit. But you see before where it's gray and faded, and we just want to brighten the red in that smoke area. Almost no one seems to do that, and that can seriously make the explosion look bright and energetic versus like this gray faded stock footage look. Now we're gonna do something fun. Let's talk about juicy color and glow. We're gonna make these colors and glows look so beautiful and luscious that you're just gonna get horny and want to eat the pixels on your screen. So first, let's talk about making the explosion look juicy. Now this is pretty cool. So for instance, when we add contrast, these yellows are just way too saturated, but the hue and saturation effect is really powerful. So if you go to the yellows, turn on the yellow lightness, it'll decrease the saturation at the same time. Much more pleasing and less cartoony. I got all before, after, amazing. Or we can play with the red. So with the hue and saturation, we can go to the red. We can change the lightness of the reds, saturation, boost that. Amazing stuff, look at that. We can also play with the hue of the red if we want it to be a little bit more orange, or we can push it towards that deep red. Now to add the glow, let's pre-compose everything into one layer. Here I just applied a glow effect. Now a common problem is there's something else bright in your scene that's glowing, but you only want the glow to apply to the explosion. So if you just duplicate this whole pre-comp, and then let's just solo this layer, and let's add an extract effect to this layer. Colors that we want to glow. So like this, and then kind of like that. And then we can also add a mask so that it doesn't get that color over there. Very simple. Here we're masking before the glow. So what I like to do is fill in the transparency before I add the glow. I like to do a solid composite and then make the solid composite black. And then add the glow. Do the same thing we did before. Let's increase that radius. Change the blending mode to screen. And then I just like to kind of blur everything. So we got a fast blur because this whole layer is just a glow. So just like that. And then if we screen this layer onto the other one, boom, we have a glow. And of course we can control the exact color of this glow. We add a tint effect or whatever we want to do, but look at there, it's a pretty awesome glow, and it does not apply to these other bright objects in the scene. So if you've had fun and want to stick around, the only way to get notified about my future VFX assets, tools, and training is to hit the notification bell on my YouTube channel, or you can subscribe to the newsletter on my website visionaryfire.com. My name is Lendon, and until next time, wizard, crush, destroy, annihilate!
Visionary Fire.